In Canada, one woman is killed in a violent act every other day. The spike in domestic violence that began during the pandemic is still on the rise. Numbers in Canada have leapt by 27% since 2019, and in Israel, the situation is just as critical, with 16 Israeli women already murdered this year. True to its mission, CHW is stepping up to support emergency services in Canada and Israel at this critical time. Help CHW empower victims of domestic violence by supporting the 27-hour SOS crowdfunding campaign. From August 22nd to 23rd, every dollar will be quadrupled when you donate online at chwsos.ca.
I'm Zach Hoffman, and this is what Jewish Canada sounds like for Monday, August 28th, 2023. Welcome to the CJN Daily, sponsored by Metropia. Today, as students return to the classroom next week, Ontario becomes the first province in Canada to mandate Holocaust education at the elementary school level, starting in grade 6. Last October, a number of high-profile entertainers brought anti-Semitism to center stage, especially online.
I can say anti-Semitic things and Adidas can't drop me.
But Kyrie, you have to understand that by
I don't have to understand anything from you.
Anybody is
you guys have
look
any more
at
questions
it and they're going to say,
you guys have any more
does he have
questions? Because this is going to be a clip.
beliefs?
This is going to be a clip.
I've been to Hollywood. This was just what I saw. It's a lot of Jews.
That November, Ontario's Education Minister, Stephen Lecce, announced a series of reforms to, quote, combat rising anti-Semitism across Ontario schools.
With 1 in 3 students in this country believing that the Holocaust was exaggerated or fabricated, it is clear we must confront anti-Semitism that is rising in our society with more than words, but with action.
The Ministry of Education reported that over the 2021 to 2022 school year, over 50 incidents occurred involving anti-Semitic symbols in the Toronto District School Board. Swastikas being drawn on walls, students performing Hitler salutes, and the like. Over 90% of those incidents involve students in grades 7 and 8, which is why this new curriculum is being introduced in grade 6. Earlier this summer, the CJN Daily's Ellin Bessner and news editor Lila Sarick spoke to Minister Stephen Lecce about the new material, how it's being introduced, and why the changes are so important to the minister on a personal level. That interview coming up.
Beth David Hebrew School is now accepting new students. One of Toronto's most dynamic, egalitarian, conservative congregations is offering personalized Hebrew lessons, hands-on learning, exciting field trips, and small group activities, all with a hot dinner included. This is Jewish exploration that will last your children a lifetime. Classes run weekly on Monday nights from 5 to 7:15 p.m., starting September 18th. To learn more and enroll, visit bethdavid.com or email Adina, that's ADINA, at bethdavid.com.
Where were you guys today?
We were in Gravenhurst and we were in Perry Sound announcing a new school.
One of the questions is, and you were just up in Perry Sound and Gravenhurst, what is it going to be like for teachers to teach this Holocaust curriculum in small communities where they may not, they can't go to the Toronto Holocaust Museum. They probably don't even know any Jews. There's no Jews in the community. What is the ministry thinking about how this is going to be taught there? And what provisions is the ministry making to help teachers teach it in places where there are no Jews or very few Jews?
This curriculum is designed to help educate, perhaps most especially students who don't have connections to either the Holocaust or the Jewish community itself. Because what we're trying to do to set out a minimum expectation of knowledge that must be codified in Ontario's curriculum on the very basis that, every student must understand our history in order to help prevent genocide and human rights violations in a contemporary sense. And so what we have done is we've launched, in partnership with the Friends of Samuel Wiesenthal Center for Holocaust Studies, a anti-Semitism classroom toolkit to help build capacity in every class, appreciating that every educator will have that connection to the Jewish community or the Holocaust. That program was designed by educators from the Jewish community, built by and for the Jewish community, but for the benefit of all educators across Ontario. We've also introduced through the Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs a new resource hub for educators and parents too, but particularly for the educators to better identify and learn about anti-Semitism. And we also funded through the UJA the Anti-Semitism Resource, which is a guide to support parents, students, and educators, specifically with respect to the new form of anti-Semitism that is rising and the increasing level of Jew hate we've seen rise in society, in schools, and obviously on campuses as well. And finally, through Liberation 75, we created standalone documents, support, and training for educators. So my point in short is there's a multitude of actions, of investments to make sure that the training is robust, the educators are set up for success, and that they appreciate that the audience for this most especially is the non-Jewish communities, that we build a national consensus where every child, without doubt, recognizes the greatest human atrocities committed during the Holocaust, where we deny those often online, but even within some of our societies, their efforts to delegitimize what transpired, the millions of Jews that perished at the hands of fascism. And with the Liberation 75 study made it clear, 1 in 3 children in this country believe the Holocaust was exaggerated or entirely fabricated. That is disturbing. And so this is designed to create a common denominator of knowledge of our history so that when it comes to our future, we're determined to stand up for the human rights and the freedom and democratic principles that must be upheld in this country and frankly around the world.
Is there a concern that, it's now the summer and teachers aren't going to look at this, that you haven't given teachers enough lead time to prepare for this?
Well, we have actually launched anti-Semitism training with educators much before the launch of the curriculum. We started over 2 years ago through our partnership with the Friends of Samuel Wiesenthal Studies for Holocaust Education to build capacity amongst educators. We have elevated expectations when it comes to anti-Semitism right across the board in our schools. So we took action early ahead of the curriculum release to build capacity of our teachers. This complements that plan. And I know that through the strong professional development program and the robust supports that we fund through the province. I mean, I as minister funded specifically CJA, UJA, and Liberation 75. It is the largest, most comprehensive suite of material support and training for educators. I do have confidence that they will get this right, especially as they recognize when it comes to an issue as somber as hate, anti-Semitism, and other forms of racism. I do believe that we'll all rise to the challenge to tackle this with the focus and determination that it requires. And my expectation is we're going to redouble that focus, because the rise of anti-Semitism is happening everywhere, and we need a government, we need school boards, we need society to be clear in our condemnation and beyond our words with action. And we've now unveiled the most comprehensive learning in the country that I hope will inform other provinces to do the same, because this is not an Ontario challenge.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
It's a global challenge,
What have you been hearing, or have you been hearing from other jurisdictions about what Ontario's doing, and maybe mail it out or sell it or share it? Have you had any interest or nibbles for Quebec, maybe?
Yes.
New Brunswick?
We've definitely heard interest. What I have done is I've penned a letter that I'll be putting out in the coming days to all provincial ministers of education, encouraging them to literally just adopt Ontario's curriculum. I'm offering them our entire product. Take it, it is free. I think this is in the interest of our democracy, that all children learn in from coast to coast to coast. So I'm taking initiative, sending a note, a letter requesting other provinces follow Ontario's lead. And if they want, they have a full access to the curriculum that was built in partnership with Friends of Samuel Wiesenthal.
It just struck us that we wondered what motivates you personally to champion this cause? I mean, you're Italian, you had your own discrimination family stories, but why does this so close to your heart? You're a friend of the communities. Why?
For me, it is very personal. I visited Yad Vashem in Israel. I have always committed myself to be a champion of democracy. And Israel is a democracy. The Jewish people have systematically, over millennia, faced oppressive or genocidal activities at the hands of state-sponsored terror inflicted upon them. I feel like it is an obligation of Canadians, those that are privileged enough to taste democracy and freedom and liberty every day, to shine light on the need to stand unambiguously with democracies abroad and to denounce rogue authoritarian regimes that often not only put at risk innocent people, but even our own security. I used to work for Prime Minister Stephen Harper, and I learned by the example, the moral courage it requires in a world filled with rising anti-Semitism. It has become in vogue to be a critic of Israel, as I've seen at the United Nations. And I think we need leaders across the political spectrum who are prepared to stand with a sense of moral courage to uphold fundamental Canadian values. And it is not a matter of debate. We stand with democracies. We stand with those that uphold human rights and rule of law. And I believe if we don't learn from history, we are doomed to repeat it. That is a longstanding principle, I believe. And I having seen Yad Vashem, having visited the Holocaust Museum in Washington, and of course being at the opening of the Toronto Holocaust Museum, where the province announced funding, it gives me a sense of hope that education is the greatest weapon against hate and division in the world. And so I feel it is an obligation as the son of, yes, immigrants who faced their fair share of discrimination. And I remember learning about Christy Pitts, where the Jewish community, principally allied with Italians, fought against a large group of literal, hateful, swastika-flying anti-Semites in our city. And people think this was an issue of Europe or of places far away, and this is happening in our home. So I feel very honored to do this work. I know it is the right thing to do, and I know the Jewish community has for too long felt ignored by mainstream governments. And it's not a comment on parties, it's just ignored because I think they're a small group. And I don't think that should be part of the decision point of government. They need to do what's right, period. And standing with the Jewish community, the single most oppressed group when it comes to hate crimes, according to StatsCan, yet they are the smallest group of people, faith group in the country, for me only underscores that we actually have to do even more than what we've already done. And I will continue to be ambitious and active in the fight against anti-Semitism. And I really do believe we're just getting started. I think we could do so much to proliferate knowledge and to deny Holocaust denial and hate from entering our schools and our broader society. The work will continue.
Your parents weren't interned or grandparents here, were they?
No, they weren't. My parents came after
Thank God.
57, but no, they didn't face any of that. But they remember. My dad remembers his experience and he remembers often that, among other new communities, diasporas, they all face the fair share of, xenophobia, but he remembers the Jewish community and the Italian community having a kinship. And I've always found, even amongst my friends, there's such cultural similarities. We may be different, perhaps. I mean, there are of course Italian Jews and Sephardic Jews, but I feel so at home with the Jewish community. They're warm, decent, hardworking, patriotic. They've really been just tremendous friends, and I'm very honored to be an ally for sure. And I think my parents, they raised us to remember the experience of the Jewish community, because as my parents would say to me, if you and as we know from history, what happens when you don't stand up for one minority is they come for you next. And I say this to students often. So we have a duty to stand up, and you have a duty to do something about it when you see hate, when you see anti-Semitism, when you see some xenophobic activity or words being spoken in your school. To don't be a bystander. And I challenge young people to do that every single day. I actually posted my video from Christy Pitts, Should You Be Inclined, where I really challenge these young people in front of me. I said, guys, you gotta speak up. You gotta step up. You gotta be prepared to challenge, these, frankly, just, sometimes it's naivete. It's just young people maybe being idiots sometimes. Sometimes it comes from a dark place. And that's the troubling part. The former part we can fix. The latter part will take hearts and minds, and it'll take a whole society coming together to fix that, because I don't think people are born to hate.
In other news we're following, last Tuesday, the government of Newfoundland and Labrador announced a $250,000 multi-year fund to combat anti-Semitism in the province. The funds are intended to support programs that highlight the province's Jewish community, subsidize projects that combat anti-Semitism, and allow Jewish institutions to upgrade security. In May, the province became the 6th in the country to adopt the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism. According to B'nai B'rith, across Atlantic Canada, the number of anti-Semitic incidents fell from 80 in 2021 to 56 in 2022. And that's what Jewish Canada sounds like for this episode of the CJN Daily, sponsored by Metropia. Integrity, community, quality, and customer care. We're a proud member of the CJN Podcast Network. Our executive producer is Michael Freeman. Thanks for listening.
Jewish comedy legend Modi and Hasidic rapper Nissim Black are coming to Toronto to perform live at UJA's campaign launch on September 7th. Visit jewishtoronto.com to get your tickets today. Don't miss Modi and Nissim Black on September 7th. Go to jewishtoronto.com for your ticket today.